time for Lykken on Lending.
Welcome, everybody. Good to have you with us.
Welcome to Lykken on Lending, a weekly mortgage market update providing up-to-the-minute information on interest rates, loan programs, and hot industry news, all related to the mortgage industry. Brought to you by Transformational Mortgage Solutions. To participate in today's program, our guest call-in line is 646-716-4972. Now here's your host of Lykken on Lending, David Lykken.
Let's begin.
Listeners, we've got a special guest coming on today talking about what's going on in the industry, one of the leaders in the industry, both the company as well as the individual. I'm talking about Austin Niemiec. And Austin is Executive Vice President of Rocket Pro TPO. I'm sure you all know about him and about the company, and you're going to get a chance to meet a dynamic leader. And we're going to be talking about what's going on in the industry. So stay tuned, listen in, and learn. Got some great stuff. Austin, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
David, I am honored, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. You are a leader in the industry. I love your background. But for those that don't know you, give us a little bit of your journey to this point, how you got to where you're at Rocket.
Yeah. So I was born and raised here in the great state of Michigan. Went to college here, Hillsdale College, played football. Graduated in 2008, and it was a great year to get into the mortgage industry, 2008. So people thought I was nuts. What are you doing? Why are you getting into the industry? It's on fire. But I knew I wanted to stay in Michigan, and I wanted to work for a great company, and I wanted to get into sales where, the more I put in, the more I got out of it. And so back then, Quicken Loans is where I started. I started selling loans.
At Quicken, right from the get-go, from the very beginning.
A
great company. What a great company. Talk about amazing success story. And it's there's some great companies in Michigan, and certainly we are thrilled with what you guys have accomplished. And I'm really interested with your unique position in the marketplace to get your perspective on how the industry is going at large in a whole, and then really let's then channel it, focus it in more on the wholesale side. So broad perspective, and then go into the wholesale part of it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, I think of a couple things. I mean, everyone listening to this knows this has been, one of the most aggressive shifts we've seen in the industry, in the history of the industry. I mean, just the speed, I think, of which the market has shifted. I was looking at some data from the NBA they put out a couple of weeks ago, and you look in Q3 of 2020, which wasn't long ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
It was an all-time record for net income per loan. I mean, across over 200 basis points in net income per loan, and record volume at the same time. It was $1.5 trillion north of that just in Q3 of 2020. So you had the net income per loan at all-time high on top of the record volume. And then 2 years later, I mean, Q3, you went from 200 basis points in net income down to negative net income across the industry. I mean, you're losing money per loan, and the volume is been cut in more than half compared to that same quarter. So 2 years is a very, very, very quick period of time to see that aggressive a shift. So I think what you're seeing, David, is because of that, you're seeing the industry barbell a bit as far as, I believe, market share. When you look at where folks are headed, I think it's barbelling into two areas. One is lenders with very, very strong balance sheets and a very strong cash position like us, some large retail lenders that can withstand this, rapid shift. So that's one area that everything's barbelling to. And the other is the brokers, which I love. It's our part of the business. Because brokers are nimble, they don't have the cost structure, and they can lean on companies like us that have that strong balance sheet. And then the folks in the middle, the mid-sized bankers that, you have the overhead, you're building your own tech, but you don't have the capital or the liquidity. That's where it's tough right now. You're seeing a lot of folks get out of that space and move to one side of it.
Yeah, and I like the barbell said. You're either going to be a well-capitalized mortgage banker, continue to do well, or you're going to end up going back for a season until this thing corrects to go back to brokering loans. And we're seeing a fairly significant, at least I am, I'd like to get your perspective. Are you seeing this? I should ask it as a question. In my perspective as a consultant and in the industry, we're seem to see a fair number of people that are mortgage bankers, IMBs, saying we can't compete at this. We need to roll back to just brokering loans. And they've let their entire mortgage banking employees, underwriters, and anyone affiliated with the banking part of it roll back, and they've returned to being brokers for a season just to be able to live to play another day. Are you seeing much of that?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. We're seeing, several hundred brokers, companies, shops open up each quarter, and we love it. We're a big part of that business. And and again, as there's strong competition in the broker community, with folks like us and others building the technology and building the infrastructure so that brokers can stay nimble and not have to invest there is it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And going back to the cost structure, we were at $200 net, or 200 basis points net profit. We're now negative for the second quarter in a row. That's never been in the history of our industry. We had 2 back-to-back quarters, and I think we're going to have 3 back-to-back quarters, possibly 4, hopefully not 4. We got 3 back-to-back quarters, and that's really going to the point of the importance of being with a really well-capitalized partner in this. So how the last few years got us to where we're at now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, look, the last 2 years, 3 years were a fantasy land in our industry. I mean, just like we talked about, rates hit a historic low. There's equity in homes. People needed to save money. And so everybody was in the money to refinance. And it was a hot purchase market at the same time. And so companies all across America, I don't care who you were scaling. I mean, you were hiring teams, you were hiring process.
You're doing the same thing. You're doing the same thing. So how did you avoid some of the problems? I want to get to that at some point in time. I want to bookmark that question. But everyone was in the same, we're all fishing out of the same pond. It was all costing us the same amount of money. Again, goes to the capitalization benefit that Rocket has for certain. But then how do you come back to reducing costs? Or are you just able to continue the volume up and keep rolling to not get caught in the mess that so many are in?
I mean, look, everyone's reducing costs right now. You're finding ways everywhere. You got to take a hard look at your balance sheet and find ways to reduce costs, but that can't be the only way. You can't cut your way to profitability, and you can't cut your way to market share and cut your way to a great product and success. So while being responsible and finding ways to become more cost effective, you still got to innovate. You still got to focus on driving top end revenue and trying new things, building new things. And that's what a lot of companies, they aren't focused on that right now. Right. And so the way you get through tough markets, and we've been through a lot of them, and we've been doing this for almost 40 years. When you look at the 3 or 4 really tough markets, we didn't cut our way. We innovated our way out of it, each and every one. And that's what we're doing as a company right now. We're continuing to innovate. So you got to do both though, David.
You got to do both. Yeah. It's working both ends of the formula for sure. Is there anything more about, how the last few years have gotten to where we're at that I cut you off there? It was your comment.
No, it's good. It's good. So everyone had built a bunch of capacity. And now it's a point where, I think we were at a $4.4 trillion market a year ago, and we're on a run rate of 1.9. And so you're seeing that capacity trying to catch up with reality, and we're definitely not there yet as an industry, but I think we're getting closer and closer as each quarter goes on. Yeah. But look, I think when you look at the rise of the broker, which is a space I lead our wholesale channel, you look at, it's just whenever there's an incredible amount of competition, that's when brokers soar. I mean, you look at 2001 to 2006, like let's look at history. There was amazing competition for the broker business. And so you had all these very strong competitors building, earning brokers business, and the brokers were in control, and market share went up. And then 2008 hit, and the brokers kind of got blamed for it. And lenders bailed. I mean, everyone was sprinting out of the wholesale industry. Brokers lost control. Nobody was competing for their business anymore. And you saw the broker market share go down dramatically. And then about 2014-ish, that's actually when 2015, I came over to the wholesale side. You saw a lot of competition start to heat up. Brokers were in control, and you saw brokers gain market share. But I think there's an interesting thing going on. You're asking how we got here and what's going on in the market is, you're seeing something interesting going on right now where the largest wholesale lender in America, we're the second largest, but the largest is looking to actually reduce competition in a pretty bold way.
Using a very strong capital position, it appears to subsidize the pricing to eliminate the competition. That is a big concern.
Yeah, I think it started before right now. I mean, you look back, COVID hit, and lenders had to make decisions. And there was all sort of risk. You had margin calls, you didn't know what was going to go on with forbearance. We on the wholesale side made a decision to stand strong for brokers. So we kept rates low, we kept our doors open. And whereas the largest lender, wholesale lender in America, they decided to go into a corner and really just cap their rates and not take on the risk for brokers, because to avoid the margin calls and the questions with forbearance. And so we took up UWM's brokers, we put them on our back, and we helped them really get through that COVID period where there were record volume and Americans needed help. But to go back to your question of then once they kind of came out of the corner and said, all right, we're back. By the way, we're giving you an ultimatum. You can't use Rocket anymore. If you're gaining share, and if you do, we're going to sue you. So it started there, but now to your point, you got this game on pricing where they're trying to take lenders out, saying, hey, we're going to reduce rates for a couple quarters to try to gain share, to try to reduce our competition. But what you're seeing is Loan Depot, they said, hey, we're out of wholesale now. We don't want to play around. AmeriSave got out. Finance of America got out. So
was it just because of the pricing in your mind? Because I've been frustrated by this as well. I hate to see competition close their doors. Was it just because of this, or was it extenuating market conditions as well, Austin? I've been thinking about this since you and I originally talked about this topic, and I agreed to have you on the podcast. There are many factors driving a lot of them. Some of these guys, their cost was just too high. They didn't run a good operation like you did. Like you haven't caved and haven't had to go out of business because of the competition. And so is it right for us to, certainly anyone that goes out there and prices under the market, I get that. I understand that. But are there other factors that went into that? And I'm pointing really to you and the way you've run your wholesale operation. It's leadership. Austin, you have done a great job of staying as a class act and continuing to fight, or compete is the better way to say it. Compete.
Yeah, look, of course there's other factors. When you look at everything that's going on with capacity and then cost structures and things of that nature. But I think that there was they realized there was a moment where if they drove price down for a couple of quarters, and that would be the determining factor for some of these companies to say, I'm just going to get out of wholesale and I'm going to focus on retail. And you're seeing that. And brokers are losing options, and they're losing.
That's not good.
So whenever look, in any industry, the key to a very healthy industry, mortgage, anything, is
good competition.
Competition and having as many options as humanly possible. And that means the broker having as many options as humanly possible. And anyone who limits that competition, David, whether you're a CEO, a regulator, you're harming the broker and the consumer. And we're seeing ultimately a lot of the
consumer. Yeah. And that's a good point. I'm a big fan of capitalism. I am a capitalist. I like capitalism, the free enterprise system. It can be self-cleansing when you have that. But this is one of those situations where capitalism may have turned, and we've seen the uglier side of it when it eliminates competition, because it should be about the consumer for all of us. It's not just having the most market share. It's providing the broadest amount of products. And I'm sure others would say, well, other competitors do. But what have you seen as about the product offering that's going on? What does your product mix look like? And how do you keep yourself relevant to the needs of the consumer that you're serving through the broker?
Yeah, it's a great question. Anytime that volume goes down in our industry, people start to look at unique products, try to find a niche or something to replace the volume.
And there's nobody that does that better than you guys. I look at, and if it's not, you come up with a unique name of a product that didn't exist or that existed before, but you make it look new. I admire the marketing and how you guys go about it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think one of our isms, which is our core philosophies here at Rocket, is the packaging is just as important as the contents, meaning most people all have the same product. Whether you're a broker, you're selling the same stuff, but some choose to focus on, hey, how could I rename this? Or how could I package it? Or how could I get someone's attention with it? And sometimes the way you package it is just as important, sometimes even more important than the actual contents or the product itself. And so, I think, when I look at what our product offering to the broker, we are for the truly independent mortgage broker. That's who we are at Rocket. We're for the truly independent mortgage broker. This is, look, I'm in control. I don't need anyone to tell me what to do. I want to work with a good company that has a great portal. I believe our portal is the best product out there in the wholesale space, from pricing to close. It's clean, it's crisp. It helps originators price a loan, register a loan, lock a loan, close a loan better than anyone. And then our product offering, look, we're not going to do every product known to man, But we're very, very balanced. I mean, obviously all conforming FHA, VA, Ginnie, Fannie, Freddie, but we have some great, we're working very, very closely, and I'd love to talk about affordability here in a little bit because I think it's a really key topic. But we're diversifying some of the affordability products, and as far as interest rates are concerned, we don't play gimmicks. A lot of wholesale lenders, they go down and they come up, and if you look at the last 3-4 years, we're very, very consistent, very, very competitive, and I think that's what brokers appreciate and like about us. It's something that they can rely on. So a very diverse product mix, great technology portal, and very, very consistent price. And that's why we're a great asset to brokers.
Yeah, you're a great asset to the industry. I love the fact that the way you guys work, and we've always said about Quicken and what you guys do, and the corporate culture is you're a marketing and technology company, just happens to be in the mortgage business. I think it's how it's best framed up. And I think that shows up in how you compete. But let's get into the product diversity. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing to help home ownership and expand home ownership in America through your products. Talk about that, Austin.
Yeah. So I think another key theme, and then it'll relate to your question, is affordability right now. I mean, I was looking at some more MBA data,
That's
and
a big concern.
over the last 3 years, I think the average payment on a conventional mortgage across America is like $1,200. And now, over the last quarter, that has risen from $1,200 to almost $2,000. Think about that.
That's
$1,200. That was like 4 or 5 years worth of average, all the way up to almost So obviously rates are a big deal, and then values haven't declined yet to get to the point to make it affordable. So you got this incredible opportunity of one of the biggest, largest demographics hitting the market to buy their first house, but homes have never been more expensive. And so you're seeing Fannie and Freddie really, really lean into that. And we're working very closely with Fannie and Freddie. So, they rolled out Home Possible and Home Ready and Borrow Smart, which we have an awesome, unique credit on Borrow Smart to help people with down payment. And then you saw them roll out their new caps on all the adjustments on Home Possible and Home Ready. So those are really big wins, especially for first-time home buyers. But we're doing things above and beyond that here at Rocket. We have what we call credit upgrade, which we give to brokers, which, they can help people work with our team to increase credit scores, to either get to a point where they qualify or get a way better score to increase or decrease the rate. We're doing verified approval letters with the broker community so that we can take this big wave of millennials and Gen Zs that never bought a house and make sure they're qualified before they're going out and they're looking for the right type of home. We just rolled out our manufactured home product to the broker community, and which is having a ton of success because manufactured homes, they're affordable and they're hitting the market quick. So there's a lot of things we're doing. You're going to see a lot more innovation around affordable products with the agencies, and we're working very, very closely with them as well. I think that'll be a key theme, David, over the next year or two for sure.
Well, when you talk about this, it's really about being a good partner. And you often refer to as a good partner or a true partner. Explain what you mean by that, and how do you define a good or true partnership?
Yeah, so we call our brokers our partners, right? Sometimes we even refer to them as family. But I think a partnership in life is something that's mutually beneficial to each other.
Right.
Whether it's a marriage, a friendship, business partnership, or our partnership with brokers, it's got to be mutually beneficial to both sides. And I think we are structured in a very, very unique way, much different than most wholesale lender. In the fact that we have the largest retail mortgage company in America that is very diverse. I mean, we have title, we have auto, solar, retail. We do a lot of, here in the city of Detroit. We're incredibly diversified and well capitalized, and we build a ton of technology. And then we can take our strengths and use that to give many of those strengths to the broker community so that they can go do what they do best, which is build relationships in their community, sell, market, and they don't have to worry about our rate's going to be erratic with this company, or do I have to go out build? So, we're stronger together. It was one of our brand campaigns that we truly believe we're stronger together. So that's one element of when I say a true partner, where we're truly leaning on each other's strengths to make each other better. But again, back to what we were talking about earlier, is I also think a true partner earns the partnership through value, through honesty, and through integrity. And I don't think a true partnership is work with me or I'll sue you, or work with me, but you can't work with these others. We want to compete. Brokers win when lenders like us and others are competing for their business. And when the broker is in charge, when the broker is the boss, when the broker makes us compete with others, that's when the broker's at its strongest point. And you're seeing folks out there try to destroy that philosophy and take away a broker's true superpower. And so a true partner competes for the business and earns it. They don't force it through, pricing wars and contracts and lawsuits and things like that. So that's what I mean by a true partner.
How do you manage, or I'm going to the fact, I'm thinking about what you just said about you are the largest retail lender in the nation and one of the most successful. We all just amazed at, I remember sitting with Bill Emerson at one of the executive conferences where the MBA gets all the executives together, and I can't remember the leadership group anyway. And I watched Emerson and how he sat there with such confidence, humility, confidence, and how he talked and listened to the others. But in his mind, you could almost see, he almost felt sorry for them because of their thinking. He thinks differently. This group thinks differently, and how you compete is different. And I like the idea of competing rather than getting into a dysfunctional approach to the whole thing. But how does having the largest retail platform and having a TPO operation work side by side? How do you address potential conflicts? How do you address the issues that could arise? We're nervous about dealing with the number one retailer out there. How do you address that, Austin?
I think it's our number one advantage to the broker community is the fact we're the largest retail lender in America. Our competition will try to say the opposite and inject fear and scare people, but this is such a big market, even when the market shrinks to where it's at today. Look, we're the largest retail mortgage company in America. And I think we have, don't quote me on this because it depends, 6-7% of the market, meaning 93 out of 100 loans are out there going somewhere else. And so it's interesting, like brokers are 20% of the market. Brokers are competing with brokers at 3-4 times the rate than they're competing with our retail side. So it's interesting to say, that's your biggest competition. Look, I like to think, and we like to think that in an infinite mindset. This isn't a war where there's winners and losers and we're all fighting over this tiny little pie and everyone's out to get each other. We truly believe here at Rocket, it's just part of our culture, that the numbers and money follow, they don't lead. And this world is a huge place with so much opportunity. So to get back to your question, retail isn't a threat to our partners because all the things we're able to build because we're the largest retail mortgage company in America, whether it's, we get the best mortgage insurance because we're the largest retailer, we give it to brokers to go sell. They win business. You look at COVID. We were able to stand strong for the broker community while others went into a corner. Why? Very well capitalized. We had great liquidity. What happened? Brokers were able to set records with us because we have the largest retail mortgage company in America. Brokers use our brand. As consumers, sometimes they don't know about a broker's brand and they're nervous and they could say, hey, look, have you heard of Rocket? Consumer says, of course. Hey, I'm a partner with them. Look, I have the ability to leverage them.
Great point.
And so that's why, again, we say we're stronger together with the broker community. It's not people that look at it as a threat. In my opinion, it's a finite mindset. People look at it, how do we leverage each other's strengths? That's an infinite mindset. And that's why I believe we're the best option for brokers out there.
I understand that. And I like that. When you look at where we've been as an industry, we really have not innovated. The most innovation, the greatest amount of innovation that showed up with Rocket, the Quicken and Rocket story. It's an amazing success story. And I look to the future and I would love to get your perspective on what you see, both short-term and long-term. Short-term being this challenge that we're going through right now, contraction in the volume, costs going through the roof, or it feels like it's really costs are just stayed stagnant. Most companies haven't reacted enough. It's probably the real problem. But the short-term problem of where we're at and the market's at, but also the long-term picture. Are you bullish about it and why?
From an innovation standpoint?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you go back in time 20 years ago and you were a loan originator, you looked around a mortgage company's office you'd say, what the hell has really changed? We're still locking rates for 30 to 45 days. We're still taking 1003s. They'd probably say, what is this little computer everyone's holding in their hand? It's called a cell phone. But outside of that, it does look very, very similar. However, I think there's some cool things going on in the industry that you'll see help consumers. I mean, you're starting to see, we now have a fully digital tip to tail mortgage experience where a consumer can go on, and we're rolling, it's almost there, our product getting to brokers, by the way, but consumer can go and go from app all the way to close and do it fully digitally. Is that going to completely change the world? No, but we're catching up with other industries as well as an industry. I think that's a big deal. Look, I believe someone's going to figure out, we're doing some really cool stuff with AI and the way that we underwrite loans, where we can get to a point where we're consistently closing loans in 6-7 days. I mean, we're already seeing it happen, where we're getting clear to close.
It's a big exception. It's a major exception than the rule, but I think it's very possible for us to get to that. And
I mean, a lot of it, David, is the vendors. I mean, look, we can move as fast as we want inside, but a mortgage, you're working with other parties, whether it's VOEs and the third party vendors. But we're building tech that the APIs into some of this stuff that'll help those things become more automated. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. And what I'm looking at, I look at demographics. And that's one of the things I've always been inclined to study, because I remember Harry S. Dent wrote some books that were very predictive of, he was accurate in some things that he claimed. He missed in some other things because of the timing of the demographic behavior, such as the Gen Zers and millennials and when they're acting. I mean, we all thought they were going to start buying homes. And you look at the recent MBA data we just listened to in Nashville at the annual conference, and 40% of Gen Zers and millennials own homes. And you compare that to the other demographic groups as a percentage of ownership, we have a huge, huge opportunity. I am extremely bullish about this industry. I actually believe that the broker has a chance to survive this time. The reason they got wiped out, the ice age that hit them, the big freeze that hit them, was them getting maligned because they were on the front line of offering the products that some created that weren't ill-conceived for a really sustainable housing journey. And it caused for the creation of the CFPB, which is interesting. Now we're seeing it go up before the Supreme Court. It's whether or not the legality of the funding for CFPB is going to hold up. There's a lot of changes coming out all the way around. But the demographics would suggest we have a great, great future. And I am bullish for the mortgage broker being the biggest the participant in this retail party. I'd love to get, do you agree with that? I'm assuming so. You're hoping for that. You run the TPO division there at Rocket. So yes, I assume so. But any more color you would add to it? And is there anything, other reasons to be more bullish or to be bullish at all?
Yeah, I think the biggest threat to the broker community is if lenders continue to get out of the space like we've seen over the last couple of months because of an entity wanting to drive everyone out. Because if one entity drives lenders out of the space, then the reason they want to do that, of course, is then you have margin control. You can take and you don't have to compete. And when people don't compete, the parties that receive it get weaker, in this case, the broker. So, the broker is ultimately in control. This is capitalism. So the broker ultimately still can determine the rules of the game. And we're seeing hundreds of brokers a month that sign that ultimatum start to come back over to us because they don't like what's happening. So as long, David, as there is strong lenders in the space, many though, it can't just be two. As long as brokers have 10, 8, 6 strong lenders holding each other accountable to innovation, to a great price, to great turn times, brokers will continue to grow. Yeah. However, if it consolidates to one and brokers essentially turn into a net branch, that is not good for the broker. And that's a giant, giant threat to the broker community and the broker model. So would you agree that this is actually a pendulum swinging, that we've gone to an extreme, that we actually, as the market and interest rates come back in aligned with, that's going to make people want to get back out and buy, that this is going to create an environment for the more competition to come in? Is this a pendulum thing, or is this actually something that you think is a real threat long term? Yeah, I think it's a threat if brokers don't, hold lenders accountable. But I think I'm very, very confident brokers are incredibly smart individuals that understand business better than most. And I think they're starting to vote with their feet, and you're seeing them hold lenders accountable. So yeah, I don't, as long as brokers take back control and you're seeing it happen, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing for brokers to continue to see market share grow for sure.
Well, I have been grateful for you to want to come on the podcast here. You reached out to me, Austin, and I'm really pleased that you did.
Yeah.
I can't wait to share this with our listening audience. Again, our guest has been Austin Niemiec. He is Executive Vice President of Rocket Pro TPO, and he oversees the entire TPO operation, third-party originations for the broker world. And Austin, you're doing a great job. Wish you continued success. Love to have you back and give us more updates as you see the perspective. We have a huge listening audience. A huge segment of our listening audience is the brokers. So I'd love to have you back and continue to talk to them. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
I'm honored. It was a great time, David. I'd love to be back. Appreciate you, man.
We'll definitely will. Tell your team we'll make sure that happens. Thank you.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending, a weekly mortgage market update with your host David Lykken of Transformational Mortgage Solutions. Join us next week, and thanks for listening.